On behalf of Superintendent Hoffmeister, I'd like to welcome you to our virtual ATSI training on the Continuous Improvement Cycle and ATSI designation. This webinar is an extension of the content presented at our regional meetings that were held in February and March, and we've adjusted it to fit this virtual forum. The webinar is being recorded and will be sent to you via email and then added to our ATSI website and our ATSI hub. The Office of School Support and Improvement under Executive Director Dr. Brooke Myler supports all designated schools to increase academic growth for all students. ATSI schools work with the TSI team. That's me, Michelle Seybolt. I am the Director of TSI, and Leslie Schmitt, who is our one and only TSI specialist. Please reach out to either of us if we can be of any assistance. We are always happy to help. Our learning targets for the day are for you to have an in-depth understanding of the continuous improvement cycle, the Oklahoma 9 essential elements, and how they connect to school improvement, skills to identify local strengths and areas of focus, and the accountability dashboard for ATSI. We will be monitoring the chat box, so if at any time you have a question, please enter it in the chat box so we can answer it. There may also be times when we ask you to respond in the chat box, so please don't be shy. The Office of School Support and Improvement has designed a continuous improvement cycle to focus your efforts for improvement. This process can be used on areas of school-wide improvement or for targeted issues, such as your ATSI subgroup. This continuous improvement cycle is rooted in the belief that all students can learn and all schools can improve. This cycle works most effectively when all steps are included. Each step is an important building block for the following step. No one step can be overlooked. All schools need to be engaged in a continuous improvement cycle to keep up with student needs and evidence-based practices. Step 1 is to identify local needs. To do this, we suggest using the Oklahoma 9 essential elements. We will look at all 9 of the Oklahoma essential elements later in this presentation. Conduct surveys of all stakeholders, including students, teachers, and parents, and use multiple measures of data, including student achievement, benchmarking, screeners, absenteeism, and discipline data. Step 2 is to select relevant evidence-based practices and interventions. There is a difference between research-based and evidence-based. No Child Left Behind Act required schools to use research-based practices, and ESSA now requires evidence-based practices. The difference between the two: research-based means the practice could be used as long as research was conducted to establish as long as research was conducted in regard to the practice. Now, with the Every Student Succeeds Act, a practice must have evidence to establish it is proven. Evidence classifications range from promising, moderate, or high. You can find many of these classifications on Evidence for ESSA or What Works Clearinghouse. There's a separate webinar recording that goes into depth on evidence-based practices that is linked at the end of the presentation and is also found on our school support website. We also have links for Evidence for ESSA and the What Works Clearinghouse on our ATSI hub for you to find easily. Step 3 is to plan for implementation. The development of SMART goals is crucial to this step in the improvement cycle. SMART goals are strategic, measurable, attainable, relevant, and time-bound. An action plan is then developed and professional learning planned. When planning for professional development, be sure to address how the professional learning will be ongoing and job embedded. Step 4 is to implement the plan. You have to be intentional about building capacity in your school community. There must be buy-in from all stakeholders to have a chance at being successful. Some evidence-based practices that could be implemented at this point in the continuous improvement plan are instructional coaching, leadership coaching, model teaching, and professional learning. Again, make sure that the professional learning is ongoing and job embedded and directly addressing your school's SMART goal and classroom instruction. Step 5 is to examine and reflect. Don't forget to reflect on the overall progress you are making towards your SMART goal. When examining progress, make sure to look at multiple data points and revise your plan as needed. Again, this step is one of the most overlooked steps. People tend to breeze past the reflection component, but again, this is one of the most essential pieces of the continuous improvement cycle. The Office of School Support and Improvement has designed this continuous improvement cycle to focus your efforts for improvement. In summary, the continuous improvement cycle is to identify, plan, execute, and review. Every step is important and cannot be overlooked. The continuous improvement cycle can be applied to any situation and will be critical when looking at your ATSI identified subgroup. A very helpful tool to use in identifying the areas needed for improvement at your school is the Oklahoma 9 Essential Elements Framework. The Oklahoma 9 Essential Elements Framework is a result of Dr. Robert Marzano and his team conducted of Oklahoma's highest performing schools. There is a link at the end of this presentation that will enable you to watch a more in-depth video of the 9 Essential Element Framework. There will also be a link to download the 9EE Leadership Survey for you to use at your school. Again, this presentation will be emailed to you and available on our ATSI website and our ATSI website hub. We will email you our ATSI website hub. We also, Leslie and I do have that in our signature lines and all of our emails. So we want to make it as accessible to you as possible. So if you ever need a link again, please let us know. We're happy to send it to you. Let's look at the 9 essential elements. There are 3 pillars and 9 elements that make up the state of Oklahoma's 9 essential elements framework. The pillars are academic performance, learning environment, and collaborative leadership. We're going to look at each pillar individually. The first pillar is academic performance. Oklahoma essential element number 1 is curriculum. The school faculty develops and implements a curriculum that is intentional and aligned to state standards. OEE 2, classroom evaluation and assessment. The faculty uses multiple evaluation and assessments to continuously monitor and modify instruction to meet students' needs and proficient student work. Instruction, OEE number 3. The school faculty provides an instructional program that is used by students that is effective, varied, and research-based practice. When these OEEs were made, research-based was still the language that was being used during No Child Left Behind. We now know that we need to be using evidence-based instead of research-based practices to improve student academic performance. The second pillar is the learning environment. OEE4 is school culture. The school district leadership teams functions as an effective learning community and supports a climate conducive to performance excellence. Again, that is how your building feels to all the stakeholders. How does the building feel for teachers, for students, and for families? OEE5, student, family, and community support. The school district leadership team works with families and community groups to remove barriers to learning in an effort to meet the intellectual, social, career, and developmental needs of students. OEE6, professional growth, development, and evaluation. The school district leadership team provides research-based, results-driven professional development opportunities for staff and implements performance evaluation procedures in order to improve teaching and learning. The last pillar is leadership. OEE7, the school district leadership team provides instructional decisions focusing on support for teaching and learning, organizational direction, and high performance expectations. The school district leadership team creates a learning culture and develops leadership capacity. OEE8, organizational structure and resources. The school district leadership team is organized to maximize use of all available resources to support high quality performance of students and staff. OEE9, comprehensive and effective planning. The school district leadership team develops, implements, and evaluates a comprehensive school improvement plan that communicates a clear purpose, direction, and action plan focused on teaching and learning. You can see that the comprehensive improvement cycle that our office has come up with and uses with schools meets OEE number 9 and comprehensive and effective planning. Let's take a closer look through the lens of your subgroup. When you take the 9EE assessment back to your school, you need to take a closer look through the lens of your identified subgroup. As an example, let's look at the Needs Assessment Leadership Survey for Element 5. And I apologize, I know this looks small on your screen. Again, you will have access to all of this information. This is what the 9EE assessment looks like for the OEE 5 learning environment, student, family, and community support. Underneath the heading, there is a brief description of this OEE and performance expectations. Each statement has a scale of 1 to 4. If the element does not exist, you score a 1. A score of 2 means that some aspects of the element, but it's not systematic in your school. A score of 3 means the school has a developed plan to address this element and have made substantial progress towards implementation. And 4, the element is evidenced at your school and you continually adjust the implementation plan to improve the element's impact on quality learning. Let's look at this through the lens of your ATSI designated subgroup. How would you and your staff answer the first indicator? Families and communities are active partners. Families in the communities are active partners in the educational process and work together with the school district staff to promote programs and services for all children. Do I have somebody who is brave who would be willing to put how you would rate your school in the chat box? Would anybody be willing to unmute and answer?
Hi, Michelle. This is Audra with Oklahoma Virtual Charter Academy.
Hi, Audra.
I don't mind doing it. We have a strong family and community support system in our school, so I would rate myself 4 on that. There's an active, just part of our school nature. And because we're an online curriculum, they do have access to all curriculum, so that would be a 4 as well. The organizational structure supports instructional practices to reduce barriers to learning. That's something that I want to say a 3 here. We're continuing to work on how to really get some of our students who, are below level, just the right structure. So I don't think we're perfect on that piece yet. So that would probably be a 3. Students instructional assistance to provide outside the classroom. That is something we're working on as well. So we're going to do a 3. We're looking at some blended options there. And then the school district maintains an accurate record keeping system. We're definitely a 4 on that. We have lots of online data and pieces that we use. So this one is not a huge indicator for us yet.
Thank you for sharing, Audra, and thank you to Michael and Vita for sharing in the chat box. I will say, when I was a principal, I felt like we did a pretty good job of engaging families, but it was a very much a one-way kind of communication, that we didn't really actively partner with parents. And so I know that's something that we could have worked on and really thought through at my school, is rethinking what engaging families looks like, rather than just using the typical parent-teacher conferences and like a family literacy night. But how do you really engage parents at a deep level where they feel like they're really contributing to their students learning in a meaningful way? So I know that's an area that a lot of people across the state are really thinking about. Thank you all for sharing. I greatly appreciate that. So let's take this element a bit deeper. Let's see. There we go. So we can take this element deeper by comparing how you engage families during a traditional school year, and then how you engage them during virtual distance learning. What went well for you? What were areas of weaknesses that you have? Would anybody be willing to address that, the comparison between engaging families traditionally and through distance learning? And you can feel free to write in the chat box, or you can unmute and share with us.
I'll share on this. The hardest part for us with the distance learning was getting the targeted kids to engage. It seems like so often it was your kids who are making, great grades, and they're doing it because they want to be on there and involved and social. Yet it was our students that are struggling that we had a hard time getting to complete stuff and really join in and fully do everything that they needed to do online in order to continue their learning.
Mm-hmm. And wouldn't you say that those kids are probably making up the majority of your ATSI group?
Absolutely.
Yes, yes, I agree. Does anybody else want to share? I will say, Sarah, that the struggle you shared, I have heard that echoed on many of our calls that we've done. It seems to be that there is a bridge that we have to close, that we have to cross in order to bridge that gap of engaging families. At the national level, through our Striving Readers grant, we are continually talking about that. And whenever we hear of a great strategy, we'll be more than happy to share it with everybody. All right. Here is a list of the resources for the Oklahoma 9 Essential Elements. And remember, we're going to send this presentation to you. And all of these resources are also on our ATSI Hub, which you can find on our ATSI website at the State Department of Oklahoma. You can go to the Office of School Support and Improvement, click on Designations, and you should find ATSI listed. Once you go to that website, you can click on our hub, and that will take you somewhere, that will take you to our hub, which will show you all of these resources for you and your leadership teams. Also, it is in our email signature line. So if you just want to put our name in your email, it can pop up, and that would be a fast way to find it as well. I'm going to turn it over to Leslie Schmitt, our TSI specialist, who's going to take us through the accountability dashboard on single sign-on and the Oklahoma Schools report card.
All right. Thank you, Michelle. I appreciate that. I also would like to welcome you today and hope you enjoy our presentation. I am a TSI specialist with the State Department, and I'm going to be sharing some wonderful information and resources that you may use to help you as you determine what you need to do to make improvements on your ATSI designation. The first one we're going to look at is located at the Oklahoma State Department of Education at sde.ok.gov. I'm going to click on that website and navigate through that to show you some of the things that are available there. Once you open the state website, you will scroll down to the single sign-on and click. This will open the single sign-on page. What you're going to be needing to look at ATSI results is with the accountability reporting. If you do not have access to this site, you'll need to talk with your administrator about setting up permission for you to use the site. If you do have permission, you can click on that and it will open up the page to access your school results. You'll need to create that account for you, but I'm going to show you what is available right now. The first thing you're going to see is the FERPA agreement. You will need to read through the FERPA agreement very carefully and then scroll down to I agree. Once you agree, it will open up the access page. At the top on the right, you're going to type in your school or your school district to find your school. Today, with the permission from Dr. Laura Morris with the Oklahoma City Public Schools, I'm going to be sharing the results for Coolidge Elementary. You'll see if you type in a district that all of the schools are available within that district. You'll click on yours. The first thing you're going to see is your general information. What we'll need to do to get to the ATSI data is to click on Reports and then Designations. This brings up 3 tabs. We're going to click on the ATSI Detailed tab, and that will bring up specific information related to your subgroups. All of the subgroups are listed, even if they have met the targeted goal. You'll see the prior school year and our current school year. Notice that in the prior school year for Coolidge Elementary, there were 4 subgroups that did not meet the cutoff score. This current year, we had 4 that did not meet the targeted cut score. Notice as you go to ATSI, it goes back to green for some of the subgroups. That's because there are no new ATSI school designations for the current school year, with the exception of if they have been read prior school year and current school year. So you'll see that one area at Coolidge is students with disabilities. By clicking View, we're going to see some greater detail in regard to this group. In this subgroup, students with disabilities, you will see the 4 indicators: academic achievement, chronic absenteeism, ELP progress, and growth. You have the total points earned out of the total points possible. Once that's determined, you'll get an overall score by adding the points. Coolidge had 5.46 points out of a total possible points of 90. To reach the indicator value, you're going to take the total possible points and you're going to divide it by 90 to get your indicator value. And you'll see that since that indicator value was below the target value, their target was not met. By clicking overall, you see, again, we're still with the same group, students with disabilities. You're going to see the 4: academic achievement, academic growth, English learner proficiency progress, and chronic absenteeism, and the overall scores, the total points earned. You're also going to be able to look and view by student group. You can change and look, even if your group met the target score, you can still get your results. And I will show you how to access those results for each individual student, although I will not click that because of the FERPA requirements. I do not want to show you individual students, but I'll show you how to get to that. But you can see that each subgroup is there. As we scroll down, you can see that there were academic growth is what we want to focus on. If you click on academic growth, it's going to bring up their scores. In the area of academic growth, the students with disabilities have 0 points. That's why their target was not met, because of the score of 0 points. You can see they have an ELA score and a math score that are available. If you'd like, you can also download the Academic Growth Indicator Guide that will help you examine these scores more closely. When you get to this page, if you were to click on this number under the denominator, it will bring up each individual student within this subgroup and their scores. I am not going to do that today, but this is where you would go to find individual results. Again, you can view by students, groups, and see the same results in these 2 areas. You can also change to a different indicator and see scores for those different indicators, all from this page. You can change what you want to see and what you want to view. Again, just a reminder, when you get to this final page, by clicking on the denominator, everyone always wants to know, well, how did my students do? This is where you would find that information. Also wanted to show you that under reports and designations, where we went to begin, and clicking on ATSI, there is a downloadable ATSI guide. Let's take a quick look at that. If you forget what I've explained to you, this is a great resource for looking at individual cut scores for each area. It reminds you how to navigate the page. It explains to you what the red and green dots are for each subgroup. And then gives you the reminders of how to click view, get your total overall indicator values, look at your points earned, then click overall, examine each of the academic indicators, each of the scores, and then finally, by clicking the denominator value, you would be able to see individual students. And this is blacked out for a reason, but you would be able to see the different areas, how many points they scored, what they contributed, whether they were below level, above level, all of that is available to you by clicking and downloading the number under the denominator. Okay, so we'll go back. Again, your ATSI begins at the accountability reporting page by finding your school. Again, Michelle mentioned to you, we are both available to answer any questions. If you can't remember what needs to be done or where you need to go, please give us a call. This is a wonderful resource for you. Gives you a lot of information about your school, about the subgroups that have designated you as an ATSI school, and information about your individual students. So this is a wonderful place to go to get that information. The second site that I want to share with you is the Oklahoma dashboard located at oklaschools.com. Let's take a look at this resource as well. You're going to put in your school, and there are sometimes multiple schools within the state of Oklahoma that have your name, so make sure you click on the right one. You will get a general school information page that gives you a lot of information, and this oklaschools.com is accessible to anybody. As we scroll down, we're going to see the same 4 indicators as we did on the previous page on ATSI designations: academic achievement, academic growth, English language proficiency, chronic absenteeism, and an overall grade. Again, I want to stick with academic growth. I would recommend that you spend a lot of time on this page. It's going to give you multiple resources for results. Here we see that your ATSI designation is there, so you know you're in the right place. We're going to, again, I click on academic growth. It gives a brief explanation of what that is, and it also gives you a link to report card resources. At Coolidge, this is the composite score. They earned 9.6 points out of a possible 30 in academic growth. That puts them at 31.9%, which is fairly close to the district, Oklahoma City Public Schools, and then quite a bit below the state average. One of the things that's really nice about this page is you have a sliding graph. The dotted line indicates where Coolidge is, and if you hover over that dotted line, you'll see that 11 schools scored that same relatively 32%. I can click on that 11 schools, and it will tell me who they were. So you can see who is in a similar situation as you are. If you want to say, maybe make a goal to improve to 40%, you can go over on the sliding graph to the 40% level, and you'll see that there's 22 schools that are at 40%. Excuse me. You can click on those, and they will give you those 22 schools. I'm not fast enough. There we go. And you might give them a call and figure out what can you do that will work for you that these schools are doing to perform at this level. It's a resource that you can use there. This will show you schools that were lower than you and schools that are much higher. But again, this tool is valuable in that it gives you an idea, basically matches you with schools that are similar to your situation. It might be a resource where you can work together, get some great ideas from schools where they're performing well. And so this becomes a very helpful tool. As we go further down the page, you'll see a pie chart. Again, you can look at, this one is race and ethnicity. If you hover over it, you're going to see how it breaks down. At Coolidge, 2 or more races is only 5.2% of the population, and they averaged a score of 50%. The white population is at 6% of the total population, and they scored 66%. At Coolidge, the Hispanic population makes up 79% of the total population, and they scored an average of 29%. So this gives you some feedback. When we go to students with disabilities, which was the low area that did not meet the target cut score, that is 16.3% of the total population at Coolidge. And again, as I mentioned earlier, they had an indicator score of 0. So you go down and you say, well, we're looking at academic growth. What's the growth rate at our school? This chart gives you a comparison of 2018 performance versus 2019 performance. You can hover over any one of these boxes and it will tell you what your student population did, whether they increased their scores, whether they maintained the same level, or whether they decreased. And it will give you a basic idea of what your population within the students with disabilities are doing. What are they doing that's working, what's not working. So this is a great kind of snapshot of what you can see as far as improvement, or whether they remained level or they fell below. This is the composite score. You can also see the same information for the English scores and for the math scores. So again, this is a great resource for you to look at. You can go back to the top of the page and view indicators separately. We were in academic growth. You can also check out academic achievement, the ELP progress, and chronic absenteeism at your school. So a very helpful tool for you to have and to examine about your school, give you comparisons between what you're doing on the state level, as well as what you're doing compared to other schools. It gives you a resource to maybe match yourself up with schools that are similar or in the situation that you're at, and maybe sharing ideas of what's working and what's not. So this again is a great tool to have, and it's worth spending some time on the site to navigate. And finally, I just want to say, once again, Michelle and I are here for you. If you have any questions, please contact us. Again, you see Dr. Brooke Myler, our executive director, Michelle, my director of TSI, and then I'm the school specialist. Even though we are teleworking from home, you can leave us a message on our office phones, and it will be forwarded to our email, so we can get back to you if you have any questions. Again, thank you for joining us today. Take care and stay safe. Michelle, back to you.
Thank you for joining us today. If you have any questions, right now, feel free to unmute yourself and ask. Leslie and I will hang on for just a few minutes to answer any questions you may have. You can also put them in the chat box.